everyone. Welcome to another edition of Spilling the Tea on GovCon. I'm Teresa Moon, Director of Market Strategy for Parabolis. We are the preeminent partnership for government contractors, providing holistic support that includes a line of credit to fund your growth. The purpose of this podcast is to assist small businesses with success in the federal marketplace by introducing them to industry experts and resources that they may not otherwise know about. Today, we welcome back to the show longtime friend, partner, and recurring guest, Judy Bradt, CEO of Summit Insight. Judy works with established government contractors who are past the beginner stage and facing high-stakes decisions about where to focus, who to engage, and what's actually winnable. Known for her work on micro-engagement, we've asked her back to expand our previous conversation into part 2. Welcome back, Judy.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be back.
I love it, and we always love having you. Many of our listeners are familiar with you because you are a recurring guest, and your work and everything that you've done precedes you. So I know that a lot of people are listening in for that very reason, but I'd love it if we could mix things up a little bit and start out this time rather than you introducing yourself further. Tell us what you enjoy most about your work.
I think the thing I enjoy most, there's two parts. One is being able to bring to business owners, talented, passionate business owners, taking to that clarity point, that light bulb moment. They go, now I get it. Now I know why we've been struggling and how it can be better. That's one piece, being the light bulb moment, helping somebody get to that point. Mm-hmm. The other is building connection between people who need to meet each other. I can no sooner fail to introduce two people who need to meet each other than willingly stop breathing. Now, I will say, it doesn't make me an introductions company. Right. But in the flow of a conversation with someone, that human connections are, I think, the single most precious thing that we have to bring to each other, and that as human beings, we crave and cannot live without after water and oxygen.
I love that. And you're one of the very best at it. You've been wonderful to me through the years that we've known one another in that respect. And I think everyone that knows you would say the same. And so I think that's a beautiful way to start this conversation, because a lot of what we talked about in part 1 dealt with that relationship building and nurturing. And that's a huge aspect of that. And as this is part 2 to our last discussion, let's recap a bit to bring everyone up to speed before we jump in. We focused on what micro-engagements really are and how they can be most effective, particularly with regard to staying in the relationship, nurturing that human-to-human interaction that you just spoke of, making the follow-up calls, and really building a solid foundation that'll make you memorable, trusted, and keep that door open for those opportunities. You also talked about focusing on what is real in your pipeline and not chasing dollars, but really positioning your company and your capabilities, which is also very important. And you mentioned it's about searching for pathways to diversify with other agencies without basically having to start over from scratch when you all have already built the solid relationships with your current buyers. And so today in part 2, we're going to look at what you refer to as small solutions development, bringing small, legitimate solutions to the real problem. So I'd like to jump in there. Today, of course, we're going to be talking about micro-engagement. And we've talked in our discussion prior to this about staying visible when buyers aren't actively buying. And how has your thinking evolved in this next stage of engagement?
Well, what's changed since last time, what I'm seeing from a lot of companies, is that vendors are the smart ones, the ones who are going to be successful, are shifting their thinking from how do I stay visible? What deserves my attention? Mm-hmm. What deserves my attention? And buyers are shifting their thinking from how do I evaluate vendors to what deserves my trust? Mm-hmm. Established government contractors, especially now with a mushrooming set of platforms that are coming at them from AI companies saying, I have something just specially for GovCon, instead of being lured by how many different AI things get, to really wall off what are the decisions that only I can make? Where do I need to safeguard the judgment layer
Mhm.
before lots of automated decisions that are only going to compound my pain and give me a lot of expensive mistakes to correct. In
Mhm.
today's federal market, mistakes don't just waste effort, they have consequences. And that includes the consequence of the cost of fixing what went wrong, and then the opportunity cost of backtracking and starting over.
Mhm. Well, there's a price tag to everything, people's time. And so when you're building on that activity, there's a price tag attached to that, especially as your team grows. And so the more people you bring onto your team, the more expense there is behind that. So I think that's a
Mhm.
great way to segue into my next question, which is dealing with that actual activity portion of it.
Uh-huh.
So if activity doesn't equal progress in GovCon, so you got a price tag there regardless, what does? And what are you seeing companies do that isn't helping them win?
I will always remember the visual representation of the difference between activity and momentum. There's a presenter, Julie, and she stood at the front of the room and she said, "Here's the difference." She stood in one place and just pinned around in one place. She said, "That's activity." Then she took a step forward and said, "That's momentum." I went, yeah. If you remember anything, think of it that way. Motion can feel productive,
Mhm.
but it can avoid hard choices. Many companies are chasing too many agencies or have AIs that are filling their inbox with bright, shiny objects
Yep.
and then saying yes, especially when, oh, good, now we've paid a truckload of cash for a proposal engine that can churn out things in response to all of these things. And there's this missing layer of the setting up the judgment bumpers around
Mhm.
where do we have relationships. Your AI can't tell, it isn't programmed to tell you that. You've got to
Right.
say, if we don't have relationships with players at these layers, if we haven't asked these questions, if we haven't had these kinds of interactions, then use an algorithm and downgrade the priority of what came into the bright, shiny objects pile. Sort it out this way. And only you, as the business owner, as the team leaders, can apply that judgment.
Mhm.
Companies are saying yes to work they truly can't win and then investing precious proposal resources. And I don't even mean electrons. I am talking about the heart and soul of
Mhm.
talented, gifted proposal writers. And I talk to many of them, and you can just watch the light dim in their eyes and just see their hearts sinking as they go, they gave me another one.
Mhm.
And you lose your talented people when you do that. So if you take the same energy, apply sharper focus,
Mhm.
it completely changes results.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think, the old adage of throwing spaghetti up against the wall and seeing what sticks is not a great strategy for opportunity. And so I couldn't agree more that that's too often. And I too have seen really great proposal writers, you know, chained to their desk because they have to constantly be putting more and more out, and they recognize pretty quickly what the validity is and the likelihood of winning it is at the end of that. And so I think really being focused and lasering in on what your true capability is and how does it meet the mission of the buyer is super important. So I love that you've made that, point of interest here today. I think it's great. And I think a lot of where we're going to go into this next question deals with what happens. You've done all the right things. You've really narrowed your pipeline down the right way, and you're seeking your buyer that you've built these initial relationships with. But what happens if your buyer goes silent and you feel like you're being ghosted, right? Because, why wouldn't they want to respond to me? I'm so important in their life, right? Is it really the case? Are they really being ghosted, or is there something else going on?
I'll come back with a question, all right? And you have to there's lots and lots of people in you personally, your life, your business that you call them, you don't hear back from them.
Hmm.
What is the one thing that is true 100% of the time when they don't call you back? In your
They're busy.
experience, and decades of experience, they're busy. Maybe. Give me two more guesses. What's true 100% of the time when they don't call you back and you know this for sure?
Well, they probably don't have any interest.
What's the third thing? Pick a third thing.
I would say
100% of the
they
time.
have something going on in their own life that doesn't have anything to do with the situation, and that is taking their attention away from all of the thousands of interactions that they're having from other people just like you who want to
You're
get their
close.
attention.
That third one is closer. The one thing that you can know 100% of the time when someone doesn't return your call is that they didn't return your call. I'm
And
not
there it is,
teasing you,
right in
and
your
I don't
face.
mean to embarrass you. Until you talk to someone, you cannot know. And our
Yeah.
brains are wired to be very hungry for solutions. And we all know this has happened to us. If you don't have information, your brain will make stuff up.
Oh, yes.
That's why the tabloids stay in business. And so remember that the only thing you can know for sure in silence is that you don't know. Buyers, now specifically talking about the federal arena right now, buyers are not disengaged. They are filtering risk.
Mhm.
They are overloaded. They are overwhelmed. They are flooded. And in fact, while GovExec and the part of the company they bought that used to be Market Connections
Mhm.
shows they trust AI least, but they are having to use it with contract consolidation,
Mhm.
all kinds of rifts and firings and job consolidation. They are often having to use AI as the first decider, as a first filter. And so to develop trust with federal buyers now more than ever takes relevance.
Mhm.
What are you bringing that you've done the research and you know is really important to the mission and the position and the responsibilities of the person you're trying to reach?
Mhm.
Consistency of thinking. That means that the vendor is not going, oh, they didn't respond to that message. Let's go give them a different message and see if they care about that.
Right.
Consistency
Mhm.
and restraint, knowing
Yes.
when not to push, having a consistent cadence
Mhm.
and being patient. And so being helpful is not the same as being visible everywhere.
Mhm.
Visibility without relevance sends a risk signal
Mhm.
to a buyer and actually makes you look desperate. Does that help?
Yes. And nobody wants to look desperate, particularly not when it comes to the bottom line, right?
Exactly.
You really have to pick and choose on that and using good discernment in that
Mhm.
respect. And so I think that's great. So knowing when to stop is equally as important to keeping up with the consistency.
And when to be patient.
Yeah.
The federal arena the last year probably looked more disruptive and less predictable in terms of the flow of what's going to happen,
Mhm.
what usually happens in the flow from October 1st to September 30th.
Right.
So this is as good a time as any to remember that you can expect a federal fiscal year to include a couple of stoppages or slowdowns for
Mhm.
waiting for funds to be approved, non-zero odds of shorter or longer shutdowns,
Mhm.
and remembering that those things are just as hard in their own way for our federal contacts and buyers as they are for us as vendors. And so to be patient, to be compassionate,
Mhm.
when was the last time somebody left you a message saying, hey, haven't heard back, I'm thinking of you, hope you're okay. No need to respond. I'm so glad we're connected. I'm here when you need me.
Yep. And you're great at that. And I think it's important to keep, we're all human beings. We all have a lot going on. And you're right from the question before. You don't know what the reason is that they're not getting back to you. So rather than sit and rack your brain trying to come up with all the reasons why, it's best to just be patient. And I love that. And I think, in terms of making good decisions, what are you seeing that the hardest decisions that the established GovCons, particularly the ones that you're working with, what are they really struggling with right now?
Well, the ones that are going to be most successful are no longer asking how we can do things or how many things we can do.
Mhm.
They're asking whether we should. They are really focused in on where do we need to safeguard and put hard boundaries on the judgment. Where are we making decisions that we can't automate and are never going to let go?
Mhm.
So they're asking things like, should we pursue this vehicle, Oasis Plus, is one that's been out there and
Yeah.
has been sucking down lots of time and attention as people jostle for position, and it's not going to be right for everybody. Things like, hey, is this agency really a good fit?
Hmm.
And things like, hey, are we spreading our team too thin? One of the biggest challenges surfaces when people realize they are a mile wide, an inch deep, and nobody they're trying to reach cares they are alive.
Hmm.
And so the people that are successful are going back through and saying, thanks for all these bright, shiny things in my inbox. What are our ground rules for making an A-list pursuit decision? And what else goes on the back burner until we can establish that we have relationships and relevance and we're willing to invest in small moves to build trust? Those start with small conversations, small problem solving.
Hmm.
And I encourage companies of any size and maturity to take another pass through and consider what strategies you have to leverage conversations around what's now a 50% bigger micro purchase
Hmm.
threshold.
Hmm.
What problems can you solve for less than $15,000? What can you do for less than $350,000?
Hmm.
You're not going to pitch people at that, but if you haven't thought about what could you bring to the table for somebody who's got that kind of money, then you're behind somebody who's already got that thinking in their back pocket.
Yeah. And I think, those types of opportunities add up. Number one, they build really great past performance. But on top of that, builds really great trust with those buyers because they're working with you more regularly. It's easier to execute on those smaller. And I think so many that I've talked to, business owners in the federal space, they want to jump in right away and get something big. And they don't understand that they've might be biting off more than they can chew in so many aspects because they haven't gotten their feet wet. They really don't know what the whole execution process is going to look like from start to finish. And, there is a difference between confidence and ego. And one is a great motivator to move you forward, and the other is a caveat for sometimes disaster because ego can take over your mind and teach you things about yourself that you probably don't need to know. And so I think that's a great way to think about things the way that you've said it, that initiating those smaller engagements are super profitable because they add up, but they give great past performance.
And a way to think about it is, what if your federal buyer would pay you to market to them? That's what those smaller engagements do. You have
Mhm.
to be spending time to build trust and awareness anyway. So instead of necessarily throwing all the money into the marketing and social media and what events we're going to, say, what if we took half of that time, energy, resources, and gave those resources over to your sales and BD to say, what could we do to be developing not just communications, but deeper
Mhm.
conversations that lead to those tiny little problem solvings that you get paid for,
Yeah.
and then also are real demonstration of
Mhm.
trust as well as past performance. Life gets
Right.
better.
I love that. And I think that that's super important for contractors of all sizes to keep in mind. It isn't always just about the big fish. It's about the opportunity that you have to really bring to the table. These are all of the capabilities that I have and really meeting the mission where it is, as opposed to just, giving too much of an overload of information and then nobody knows what they really can get from you.
You said something really important. The phrase, here's all the capabilities that I have. This
Mhm.
takes me back to the idea of relevance.
Mhm.
If you do everything, then you do nothing.
Mhm.
I want to encourage everyone who's listening to our conversation to feel confident about fine tuning or filtering or customizing that capability statement, your collateral, your talking points. Narrow it down to what am I bringing to the person, the problems that this person has. So your federal buyer, your player at whatever layer, especially the contracting layer and the functional and end user layer, they understand that the question you've thought about is, hey, what's going on in my life, my job, and my responsibilities that you could make easier for me today?
Mhm.
That's what you've thought about and bringing. You and I have all gotten thousands of both recordings, which we now regrettably hang up on. I apologize to the recording. There was a real human that made that recording, but my patience for doing that has now
Yeah.
dwindled. But
Mhm.
someone who calls you and they have given zero thought to
Mhm.
what it is that you do or why it is that what they offer is even remotely useful. I have
Yeah.
no time for that. And I'm going to assume that nobody who's listening to this conversation does that. But
Sure hope not.
yeah, exactly. But make it about them. How
Yeah.
can you show up to that conversation, that conference, that communication by saying, "Hey, I understand from the research I've done that this might be important to you."
Mhm. Well, heaven knows
Did
that
I
I
get
get.
that right?
Yes. Heaven knows I get on the regular messages in my LinkedIn box about services that either have no application to the industry that I'm in, or they're addressing me from a position that I don't hold within my company. And I find it funny because it's that little bit of research that would have taken you less than 5 minutes. It would have figured out that not only am I not the right person to be talking to at my company for something like this, but it isn't even a fit for what we do. And so, it's very important for people to do their homework and know who they are speaking to and if they're the appropriate person to begin with, number one. And number two, really what you can provide to them that would be of value. And sometimes it is not as common as we would think. But yeah, my inbox and my LinkedIn is full of those types of engagements. And I delete them promptly. And I think the weeding out process, right? Because we've all got tons of things going on. There's so much opportunity in the marketplace. So, should contractors be utilizing certain AI capabilities, and how do they prevent letting it lead to the wrong decisions? You've touched on it a little bit, but I think that there's more there.
Here's what I'm seeing, and a critical discernment that I want to suggest is going to grow in importance in 2026. AI doesn't replace judgment.
Right.
AI can help you execute lots more of the wrong decisions faster. And that's going to be real costly. It can accelerate motion,
Hmm.
but as a standalone thing, it doesn't validate direction.
Hmm.
The danger isn't AI itself, it's using it in a way that accelerates execution of a strategy that is not aligned with what you want to accomplish. I
Hmm.
fight with my AI all the time. I had this great conversation. I used my AI to help plan holiday dinner. I tried this for myself, and then it worked so well that I offered this to my sister-in-law, who has many, many recipes and plans a multi-course Christmas Eve dinner, and it's very complicated and typically get mixed up, and they run late, and dinner finishes at midnight, and no one is happy. I said, "Corinne, I think I can help. Let me feed it all the recipes and give you a timeline that is going to sequence which things start when and how to change the oven temperature so that everything starts and finishes on time. We all sit down for aperitif at 7 o'clock." She said,
Hmm.
"Okay." And I put the recipes in. I had to fight with it. I said, "No, why are we taking the puff pastry out at noon when I don't need it till 4 p.m.?" and all
Right.
that stuff. And so you have to go back and forth. But at the end, we got the right decisions made and the right things executed in the right order
Hmm.
that was aligned with the objective that I wanted to achieve.
Hmm.
And she said, "Merci, mon général." She said, she's French. Her recipes are wonderful. I'm a very happy sous chef, but everybody was happier doing the right things in the right order.
Hmm.
Maintaining decision discipline is what separates durable federal growth from a constant churn that gives you activity but not momentum toward your goals.
Hmm.
So I want to encourage people to decide what you're going to do and what you're not. Where are the things what AI can absolutely help so you don't have to churn on?
Hmm.
And which ones have to be that stopping point and where you've really got to think hard about why you're making the decisions that you are.
Hmm.
So narrow focus before increasing activity and be clear about what judgment you are never going to give to your AI. And finally, invest in relationships that support relevance, not short-term visibility or momentum theater.
Hmm.
When the cost of being wrong is high, restraint isn't hesitation. It's good strategy.
Hmm. I think that's great advice. There has to be a balance there with that as well, because more is not better. And just keeping up with more can provide its own set of problems. So being able to do it faster doesn't make you more profitable. So I think all the things that you've said here have been wonderful tips. I think the way that would be best for us to close it out, as it is the beginning of the year. What is one thing that business owners listening today can do differently this year to improve their win rate? You've mentioned quite a few. Are there any more that you'd be willing to share with us?
Put relationships first. If there's one thing to do, and by putting relationships first, I mean particularly touch back before you bid a thing on mapping out, doing account mapping. Who do we know? Who do we not know, but need to know before we go ahead and write another proposal?
Mhm.
And asking, how have we interacted with, what have we done and said and shared, and maybe one that has built trust, that gives us the signal that we've strengthened trust with the players at all the layers,
Mhm.
particularly the big collection in the end user layer, as well as the people in the contracting layer
Mhm.
before you go bid.
That's great advice. And as always, we appreciate you sharing these nuggets with us because it is very impactful. And I very much encourage any business owners that are established in the federal market that are really looking to have support that Judy and her team can provide. I encourage you to reach out to her. She's very active in the community. And if you're out and about next month in the DMV, happy to have you plug your event that you'll be at in February.
Oh, thank you. The next event, and I hope I'll see you there too, Teresa,
Mhm.
on February 11th at Tyson's Corner, our wonderful friend Aubrey Gainfort, host of the Breaking the Standard podcast, now going into its fifth year, is having an in-person event at Siva Spaces on, I think it's Spring Hill Road in Tyson's. And it's a lovely, intimate event for 30 or 40 people. And wise heads and wise minds in GovCon are going to be there. So I encourage you to look that up. And I think it runs from around 5:30 till about 8. I so enjoyed the one that I attended last fall, launching federal fiscal year. And this one is also going to include as a panelist our wonderful friend Sherilyn Harley Lebon from Cohen Seglius. And we're going to be talking, it's Valentine's week month, about partnerships, of course, and
Yeah.
what makes for great partnerships, which we all need. So come on out. Love to see you there. And I'm so looking forward to seeing you again, Teresa, and the
Yes.
Parabolis team when we reconvene again.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that we got to put that in, and I encourage everyone to take a look at that event if you're able to attend, if you're in the area. But definitely follow Judy because she is involved in a lot of great activities coming up this year. And I encourage you to reach out to her if her services align with what you're looking for your business. This has been an awesome development of a super important topic. And I'm so happy to have you back on and dig deeper for us. So thank you so much for your time, Judy, and for always being such an amazing guest.
Teresa, thanks for having me. I'm happy to share show notes and links to anything that seems to have come up.
Absolutely. And we'll be sharing this on our LinkedIn page for Spilling the Tea. So be sure to tag Judy in your responses if you'd like her to send you the information that you heard today and to keep the conversation going. And we'll put the link to this when it comes out there as well so people can engage with you and perhaps ask some questions from our talking points from earlier in this discussion. So thank you again. And thank you all for joining us. As always, we pride ourselves on sharing the most insightful and exciting people and information to help you better navigate your GovCon journey. If you like what you heard today, you can see all of our past podcasts, which are archived on our Parabolis YouTube channel. Stay tuned for all of our future guests in the coming months as we help you grow to great heights in the year ahead. I'm Teresa Moon, and this is Spilling the Tea on GovCon. Have a great day, my friends.